Hello guys, we are live today for another Carnivore Q&A. The Carnivore Team GB, myself Jonathan, Lee Coppers at Kent Carnivore, and Coach Stephen at the ukcarnivore.co. You can't see the rest of it, but I imagine it says .co.uk because it says UK. Am I right?
And .com.
Okay, ukcarnivore.com.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So anyone that does have any questions, please leave a quick Q in the chat so we can easily find it. I'll be happy to go through today. We're joined by an all-star cast today. We're missing quite a few people, but we'll persist and we'll keep it under the hour today, definitely for sure, with absolute certainty, without going over at all. Anyway, so I'm going to go through and see what people have said in the chat and give the opportunity to the guys to speak about what's going on their side of things in a minute. So it's just Rib by Rob. Hit that like button, definitely much appreciated. Me making commands to everyone, very good. Yes, just Ducky here, home and still working. Yep, same as usual. Always say the same thing. Happy Tuesday. Nice to see you. And also, thank you for joining tonight. Very good, very good. So, Lee, do you have any sort of announcements to make? Any recent videos that have been coming up that you made on your channel? Anything cool or interesting popping up soon?
Lee's, you're muted.
Hello, chaps.
I've just set up my Rumble account and uploaded just one video the other day. So I'm just going to basically get in the process of taking everything off of YouTube and trying to get it up on there as well. And then I'll probably post something on the community page just in case, because people seem to be having real problems these days on YouTube. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I've been shadow banned recently. Everything is reaching maybe 10% of what it used to reach for me. I think obviously I've had to delete a lot of videos, and I think that changes things when people search for you and stuff. It just changes everything. So it's almost like building it back up again, kind of thing. Not the audience, but to get hits, to actually make the videos reach, you know. Other than that, we've obviously got the UK Carnivore Conference coming up, which is pretty much, well, in less than 2 weeks. So I'll be speaking there, and be happy to meet anybody that's going, basically. Very excited about that. It's brand new for me. You know, I've only met one carnivore, Dr. Abs, and he was the last on Team GB, so it'd be great to meet everyone and some extras, you know. So that's pretty much it, really.
Great stuff. What about you, Stephen? Anything new going on in your world? We've also got the Carnivore Conference.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Lee said, because your content, Lee, is fantastic. And yeah, it does deserve more views. I know I'd say the same with Jonathan and Phil as well, but in particularly, definitely what you've been doing lately deserves more views. And I'm in the same boat. I cheekily put, can I get to 30k followers this week? I've had the worst month on YouTube since I can remember. And this is not like getting the begging bowl out or you can all get your little violins out. It's just telling you in case we suddenly disappear. It really is that simple. You can be banned. You can be, you know, Dave Mack, you know, the zero carb life guy, had a vegan take umbrage and just did a copyright claim against him. He's only got to do that twice more and he's out. You know, so I've set up a Spotify to do all my video podcasts onto that. I did my first one today. So Lee's virgin when it comes to Rumble. I was a virgin towards the video on Spotify. So I've done that as a sort of second place to go. I tried Rumble and I found it very difficult because it's not YouTube and it doesn't get the reach. But if everyone goes over there and it puts a little bit more money into the infrastructure, then maybe that will be the place to go. Let's be honest, if I want to find something out, I don't search on YouTube because I won't find it. I won't find the answer I want. I will find what Google wants to tell me, what YouTube wants to tell me. I mean, I spoke to the guys privately about a problem one of my friends had with one of their illnesses. Because if you research it, and I will say I'm going to say one thing actually, which I think is amazing. Because I was searching leukemia on YouTube, and I found a nursing website. It was a 3-minute thing, and it talked about leukemia, and it said, what are the risks? So a minute and a half in, what are the risks? What increases your risk of leukemia? First one was radiation. Second one was chemotherapy drugs. Right? Then by the 3rd minute, when they were wrapping up, what's the best treatment? Radiation and chemotherapy drugs. So it's not even joined up. It is really quite frustrating. So, yeah, what's in my world? Looking at Spotify, being generally quite a happy person. Everybody on this screen has got their presentation to do in, not this weekend, but next weekend. So I've been writing that as well. So it's been great.
I don't think Phil's going to say anything. No, it's just the Carnivore conference coming up soon.
I wasn't here at the very beginning.
Yeah, so it's a Carnivore conference coming up, and that's in about 2 weeks. I've got to prepare a presentation still, so I've got a few days to do that and sort that out. My talk's going to be based around, probably not meant to tell you, but it's to do with building muscle and losing fat, long story short. A bit about training, stuff like that as well, but it'll be a very informative and interactive talk. Probably one of my biggest fears is traveling. I hate traveling. It causes me a lot of suffering, way too much suffering. But I'm going to try and do my best, just make it there in one piece. It will involve a lot of packing and a lot of stress, but I am going there specifically to meet everyone there that will be there. So it's a one-off opportunity to see me up north, because it is up north. It's about 5 hours away from me, guys. Probably about 5 hours from Lee as well, I imagine, something like that. So it's not an easy one to get to by any means. But yeah, what about you, Phil? What are you looking forward to over the next few weeks?
Well, obviously, I'm looking forward to the Carnivore conference, and I'll be there. And it will be so good, finally, to be able to just chill out at a conference and do a talk and not have to organize it, because I'm still recovering from the ones I've organized. And we're still wrestling with Spain. I've been at the Spain one since about 5 this morning, and even when it's sold out, it's causing chaos. But these things are so worth it. Come along and hang out with everybody, and it's always a load of fun. So yeah, that's about it from me. Yeah, looking forward to seeing all you guys there. And you sound far more what's the word, workaholic than me, because I haven't even thought about what I'm talking about yet, so let alone started to prepare it. I've been much more fascinated with thinking, is there a keyboard there? Can I get some drums there? Look how well Lee can play. I want to have a jam.
Excellent. So I'm going to get to the questions now. We're not going to all go through each question because it will be here all day and it takes way too long. We're not able to help many people. So we're just going to do 2 answers from each person, and that's it. Not 3, 2. We will be here for hours. We're not going to help people if we do it any other way. Because we currently already have, I believe, about 6, maybe 7 questions. We're about 5 minutes in. So question from Paul. Looking forward to seeing you all soon in Sheffield Carnivore Conference. Doesn't require an answer, but I'm very much looking forward to you, Paul. I'm sure myself and the rest of the panel are grateful to have you there. Stop by, say hello to any one of us. I will look like death, just to warn you. I will be emaciated. I'll be very, very thin. I'll be about 4 weeks out from bodybuilding competition. Everyone else will be their lovely, beautiful self, and it'll just be me, miserable, sat in the corner in pain. But if I'm sat down, come up and approach me. Don't just, assume I don't want to talk to people. I'm sat down because I have to sit down. It's a matter of necessity. And we go to the next question.
I'll be sitting on Jonathan's lap because I'm really skinny and he can look massive next to me, so he'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll do me a big favour, that will. Right, we get to the next question. So Amber Hearn suggests 1.4, I'm guessing it's all about protein, 1.4 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilo of weight. Thoughts on this? They're asking specifically about numbers, recommendations. They do want a recommendation or a number. They're not asking us to tell us to eat to satiety. They're asking about numbers, so we have to answer the question as it's laid out. So in terms of protein, I'll give this one to Stephen. Stephen, have a crack at it, see what he thinks. I think we're all in the same ballpark, to be honest, but we'll start Stephen, then I'll ask Phil as well.
Yeah, I like the way you qualified it as well, Jonathan, because, when we talk about this, we don't know the history, don't know your activity, don't know anything about you. So it's always good to have a number if you're starting out. Amber O'Hearn, by the way, is my dream to have on my podcast. If anyone knows her and can get her on, I'd love that. Right. So she says 1.4 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. Well, firstly, yeah, it's not your body weight that you are, it's the body weight you want to be, which is realistic, by the way, not to be super skinny. It's a good starting point. That's it. I mean, I talk in pounds and grams. So 1 gram per pound of lean body mass is a starting point. And I would just say that's it. That you need to look at what you want to be. So let's just say you're 140 pounds. That's 140 grams of protein, 140 grams of fat in your diet per day. That's where you would start. And then you could eat that way. And within 4 weeks, or possibly sooner, you'll know if you're eating too much or too little. I think you would know. I would prefer people to be a little bit more intuitive and be able to eyeball the food and just think, yeah, that's going to be enough probably. And after about 4 weeks, you should be able to do that. But there's so many other factors. How often do you eat? Are you eating first thing in the morning? Are you eating late at night? Are you having 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day? It is more than just those bare numbers. It's all about those things. What you do in between. Do you have a power nap in the afternoon? Are you working out? Most people who want to gain muscle will probably lean more towards extra protein, less fat. If you're looking at body composition, maybe the same thing, protein, less fat. If you've come from a diet where you've been low fat for many years or calorie restricted for many years, don't forget those things are also low nutrients, low micronutrients as well. So some of your electrolytes are going to be missing. Then maybe you need slightly more fat. So this is where the history thing comes in. I don't think it's a cop-out from any of us. I just wanted to clarify why we say that, because your goals are very different. And there's also, have you got any conditions in which what you eat makes, or the amount you eat makes a big difference? So for instance, are you trying to repair your kidney compared to are you trying to fix your thyroid? Two very different organs in the body, and two completely different things to talk about when you look at whether it's fat or protein, how much and how often you eat. So yeah, my thoughts are it's a good place to start. It's a rough guide. It works for me. Looking at those numbers, I would say possibly that, Amber is one of the best people to talk to. So she's obviously looked at that. She's coached a lot of people. She's really into the science. So if that's what she feels, then I would think I'd be pretty confident. So that's probably working for a lot of people. I know when you talk to Richard, it's completely different. But it's sort of the same. Well, not completely different. It's ballpark, but it's not exactly the same. So yeah, that's really my answer, I think. Phil.
Oh, seriously, I don't know. I'm just on the intuitive thing, really. Just if you train, it's like I haven't eaten much for the past few days, and I trained today. I did a load of body weight stuff, took everything to failure, and then had a massive meal that I didn't think I was going to be able to get through. Just listen to your body. It's fine. I've never measured anything, never weighed anything, nothing. So sorry, no science from me. Go by your intuition.
There we go. Thanks for your answers, much appreciated. We're going to get to the next question now from Matthew. Does anyone have any experience using ashwagandha? Carnivore rates it in addition to a carnivore diet for mental clarity, testosterone, and other benefits. I've also heard bad things from others. I'm going to ask, we'll do Lee first, then I'll chime in my 2 cents.
I only ever tried ashwagandha years ago, and this was before I even knew what a ketogenic diet was, let alone carnivore. For me personally, I was just waiting to experience a difference or a benefit, really, for sleep. Didn't affect me in any way, shape or form. I can't say whether it would have affected any of the other things, mental clarity, testosterone. I don't know. But for me, it was just a bit of nothingy kind of thing. Whether I got a good or bad product, I'm not sure, but no idea.
Sorry. So I've used this and experimented at different times, and I found that it is effective, but then it stops working. Like all these things with feedback mechanisms, inevitably they always stop working. There is some concern over liver toxicity and heavy metals within the supplements themselves. So if you are going to buy any herb, try and buy a pure, high concentrated, high compound, high whatever the chemical ingredient is in it, as much as possible, and that should help eliminate some of the potential toxins within it. My bigger concern would be anyone going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning saying they have no money, than spending the money on something which they probably can't afford. That'd be a bigger problem for me, because to buy ashwagandha at a good quality, you're going to be spending 25 quid per month, maybe 20 quid if you're lucky. I think it is effective during periods of time, high stress, fatigue, things like that, but it will slow you down. It will calm you down a lot, and it does have quite an honest sedative effect. People are typically dosing this, I believe, something like 500 milligrams per day, and they're getting a benefit from that. Some people are mega dosing it in like the 5 grams per day. Don't do that. You don't need to eat 5 grams of herbs, guys. The benefits from the studies that we've seen seem to be around about 500 milligrams. So look at that sort of thing with the highest concentrate possible. In terms of testosterone, if your cortisol's low and you're sleeping better, yeah, your testosterone's going to be a bit higher. That's my 2 cents on it. That's all probably that we can really add on it. Just be careful what you spend your money on, and sleep. Sleep's way more important. Go to the next question now.
Well,
so this
can I
one's
just quickly jump in?
We're going to the next question, Phil.
The ashwagandha thing.
Because
years I spent in the Ayurvedic kind of thing. Be very careful, as Jonathan said, with the heavy metals. I know somebody got seriously poisoned with lead poisoning. I also know somebody at the head of a whole big Ayurvedic medical supplement company who actually died from heavy metal stuff. You don't need that kind of stuff. If it has some kind of effect when it's pure, as Jonathan said, great, but they are often really tainted with a lot of heavy metals.
Right, so the next question is from Northern Yeti. If the polyunsaturated fats and seed oils are unhealthy, what about those in pork or chicken? Anything to be concerned about? I'll give it to Stephen to give a brief summary, but we know the ins and outs of this one, the ratios, but yeah, go on, Stephen. I know what you're going to say.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, maybe this person doesn't know, but anyway, yeah. Seed oils, they have a much higher ratio. They're very high in omega-6 and low in omega-3s, whereas chicken and pork, that ratio is nowhere near as extreme. Seed oils have what's called linoleic acid, La, and omega-6, which is a PUFA, and chicken and pork contain a little bit of that, but they have a different thing, arachidonic acid. And the biggest thing, I suppose, and this is where everyone knows that this is coming up, I think that the people have been around this for a long time. Seed oils contain alpha linoleic acid, ALA, a plant-based omega-3, and I think most people are sold on the omega-3s being good, whereas chicken and pork contain EPA and DHA, which are animal-based omega-3s, and they are very good for your brain. So the way Jonathan framed it, I think that's all you want, just very quick answer. But of course, stability as well. There's more oxidation in seed oils than there are in chicken and pork.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I think there is to know about it, to be honest. Lee, do you have a take on it at all?
I heard it the other day. I've never really thought about this, but often these seed oils, they're in a clear bottle. So not only will it be unstable and they're oxidized the moment they hit the pan, but they're oxidized via light, because they're not in these. You think about, say, you've got like organic cold pressed castor oil, that bottle should be a very dark sort of yellowish color. Well, the seed oils are just sitting there in blue light, clear, transparent. And so they're just a bad idea. And you've got these enzymes in the liver that can convert the ALA over a little bit, a tiny bit, but in your skin, which is why I think we burn so much with all these seed oils and high levels of linoleic acid and things like that. We don't convert it, and it's just like all these, the composition of what you consume makes up the composition of your skin, and that's why I think people get a lot of positive results with their skin when they kind of knock out the seed oils, and so yeah, terrible stuff. I think the worst stuff you can consume, really.
Yeah, great shout for sure. Great answers as always. Next one is from Nick IQ. Interesting question. Is foamy urine on a high protein diet cause concern? No, it's just excess urea leaving the body, which is very normal. I've always had that since I was born. I don't seem to have an issue with my urination or my kidney status or kidney function, filtration rate or anything regarding that at all whatsoever through different tests that I've had. It just means your body's excreting extra waste product, and it happens to be foamy. People will say it's oxalate crystals, but that is not the appearance of foamy urine. They just say it because it's related and it sounds like it's the same, but it's not. It's a different thing altogether. It's not oxalate crystals. It's just usually elevated protein intake. You can use that as a possible marker of, or at least a suggestion that maybe you're eating too much protein. But I've tried it myself, and in terms of changing protein intake, and I benefit much more from more protein. So if you feel good, your subjective measures are great, your objective markers are as good as they can be, and you're eating a high protein diet, it's a artifact feature of a carnivore diet. It's a non-concern, a non-issue. Phil, what's your take on foamy urine? Foamy wee?
No, I agree with you, mate. I think that's absolutely bang on. I don't think the foamy thing's got anything to do with oxalates. I think that's more if you got sort of cloudy stuff and sediment. So not much more to say about that. Nothing to worry about unless you're sort of end stage kidney disease, in which case, what the hell? Going carnivore is going to fix that too. So no worries.
Great stuff. We'll move into the next question now. John Martinson asked, I was told baseline muscle glycogen stores are equal in low carbohydrate and high carb athletes, but I received pushback over truncated glycogen in the low carb group. Please explain this. Well, it's just, as you said, is exactly what you said has happened. So you're just reiterating the same point for the sake of it. It's just a pushback. Professor Tim Noakes studied people that have done endurance exercise that have the highest bolus of carbohydrate intake, compared them against fatty acid using substrate using athletes. It was the same. There's nothing to be added to that, I don't think, at all, really, other than the fact people just want to say, oh, it's not good enough. And if that's not a good enough anecdote, I train at an extremely high level as a bodybuilder, and I seem to be doing just fine in spite of it. And I don't need 1,000 grams of carbs a day either. And my body seems to actually be more resilient on a lower intake of food if I choose. So that's my take on it. I might push this one over to Stephen as well, just because I know he's got quite a big experience with gym scene, and he's probably looked at the study as well. And I know he talks a lot of Richard, so Richard will probably give good insights, but Stephen will probably be able to hash out as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, glycogen, and I think this and the last question, we're talking about a similar thing. When you've got no carbohydrates, or when you get less, so one glucose molecule will hold 3 molecules of water. Okay, so your glycogen stores are going to look less, your body's going to look less puffy and all that sort of stuff. So then you get into soluble, insoluble glycogen and granular glycogen. Basically you're worrying about nothing. It's a real nuance. And I just want to dial back to the protein thing that's coming out in the urine. Well, the foam sometimes isn't even caused by that. It's actually the concentration of urine, because there's less water. We're not expelling so much water. So what happens is you have slightly more concentrated urine. You also get what's called rapid urination. So, all these things, a lot of these things are based on the carbohydrate intake sucking up water. Once you get past that and you realize you're left with how we should be, I'm sorry to be really broad here, but once you start eating the proper human diet without these extra carbohydrates or dietary carbohydrates, your body will expel itself with water, and you'll have all these things which people think aren't normal or aren't right. Well, actually they are. And the more fat adapted you are, the longer you're in like endurance sports, eating carnivore, the more you're in explosive sports and you're reducing carbohydrates. Over time, once you're completely fat adapted, or as someone said to me today, we're not adapted to this way, we're actually going back to how we should eat, which is something I do say quite a lot. That's the benchmark. So anyone taking 100 grams of carbs, 200, 500, 600, you are adding excess water that you don't need. So you're diluting your urine, you're diluting your glycogen, so it looks bigger, because there's 3 extra molecules for every one of glucose. It's crazy for me to have to keep saying the same thing, but yeah, that's my extra take on it.
Great stuff. Solid answer as usual. Very, very good. Excellent. We've got a super chat, I think, from Sharice. I'm going to get to that one first. Please remember to leave a queue before all questions in the chat so I can easily spot them. Failing that, if you leave a super chat, super thanks. I can probably find it even easier because it comes up coloured on our screen, which is absolutely brilliant. It's from Shreyans. He says, when trying to stay in medical ketosis, again with a ketosis, I sent you a video about ketosis. You told me you watched it and you said it is very informative and useful, and you're still worried about medical ketosis. That's why I don't ask questions, guys, in comment sections. What should you aim your fat to protein ratio? Again, that's in that video as well. I spoke about fat to protein ratios. There is no ratio that is optimal at all. There's guidelines which people seem to follow based on what might be on their plate, based on 2 arbitrary numbers. Don't worry about the ratio at all. It's about the amounts of each and the cog in the middle, which affects how much of each you will need, which is based on your intake. What people will often say is, I've followed a high fat, lower protein diet. So think Stephanie person, 200 protein, 60 grams of protein and 200 grams of fat per day. She's gonna like, oh, 80-20. Well, these people can't track nutrients for the death of them anyway, for the life of them. So it's not even worth them counting because they're still measuring raw and cooked weights as the same thing. So no wonder why their results are all over the shop. And they're also decreasing the mass of food intake that they're having. And they're losing muscle mass. That's the biggest problem. You're someone that absolutely does not and should not and will not, in my opinion, strong advice, not a suggestion, this is strong advice as an actual nutritionist. Do not concern yourself with medical ketosis, and do not concern yourself with fat or protein ratios. You should be eating to satiety for your own health and longevity benefit. Doing it otherwise will seriously harm you. That's my personal opinion and take. But I'm going to ask Phil about this one as well, just because he has a slightly different take on it, and I think it'd be interesting just to have different opinions, because it's not just about me. I'm not, dogmatic in that sense. I like to hear what everyone else has got to say.
No, I think Jonathan's absolutely spot on if you're not trying to heal an autoimmune condition. And then it is very, very beneficial to stay in ketosis and to have your fat protein ratio just up, basically, a third fat to 2/3 lean meat on the plate. And then once the gut's healed, just eat exactly as you want and whatever your body wants. My body wants a load of fat some days. It wants a load of lean meat some days. I don't really think of it as fat and protein, just, whatever I feel like eating. So, if you're trying to heal something up, paleomedicina, that kind of ratio, their PKD diet, very, very useful. Do you have to do that forever? No. Did you ever have to do it if you were never sick in the first place? No. So it depends what you're trying to fix, really.
Yeah, for sure. Her fix is not indicated in this kind of sense at all whatsoever. She's asked another question about ketones. Please stop worrying about ketones. I have every sort of prerogative to promote Richard's products, and they're good products, but you don't need to be buying exogenous ketones. You don't need to be tracking or measuring ketones. Please watch that 15-minute video again. It took me about 6 hours to make. Anyway, move on to the next one. I hate seeing people obviously harming themselves. So I'm like, don't do this. But yeah, anyway, long story short, we're going to move to the next question. So melted wheelie bin. I like that name. Very good. Xanthelasma. So that's the kind of like pustulous material you get around your eyes sometimes, like white stuff. I don't know. I have cholesterol plaques under my eyes. That's what it is. Should I be worried? Strict carnivore for 6 months. Last bloods in February. LDL was 4.3. Overall cholesterol was 6.2 mil. I'm going to pass one over to Lee first. Apologies, that is quite a weird one. I probably wouldn't be able to answer this one very well, but we'll go for Lee then, Stephen.
Is this kind of like the technical name for a sty kind of thing, or is that slightly different?
No.
Almost, but different.
Okay. I mean, because I've obviously heard of things like putting warm water on and you kind of then soften it up and you can reabsorb it. But I think obviously your body's doing it for a reason. It's trying to rid something, some kind of threat or something like that. I wonder if it's an oxalate problem. I really don't know. I've not looked into this whatsoever. So I wouldn't want to give you any kind of strong advice.
Yeah, I'd say the same on that one. Sorry, Stephen, you go on. Your face has popped up.
Oh, right. I was being a ventriloquist actually and doing your voice. Yeah, I mean, basically, it is cholesterol. It's cholesterol buildup in just under the eye, and normally there around that area. where the bags form, they're actually in of itself, they're not actually a worry. They're not painful. They're actually pretty harmless, but it could indicate some other things are going on. It's very doubtful it's actually anything to do with what you're eating. I know that sounds really odd. My wife actually has them. So, but she's had them all her life. So even when she went carnivore, there was no different appearance there. So there are some creams you can do, like a topical cream. I think it's called TCA she uses, which is a sort of acidic thing. And some people have them surgically removed. They're not dangerous. And actually, over time, they will go. That's what she's found. It just is a case of something happening in your body. Now, it's one of those medical conditions that when you look it up, they don't know what causes it. So if they don't know what causes it, they won't be able to give you a remedy either. So I would, if you're worried, I would get a full lipid panel, proper lipid panel with particle size, fractions of the proteins. That's basically what that is. And see if there's anything in there. But I doubt you'll see anything. And then just also get a liver panel just to put your mind at rest that there's nothing. I mean, that's me just being overly cautious because you're just somebody on the internet and we're just four blokes on the internet. But if you wanted to do that, then I would understand that. So a full lipid panel with fractions or protein fractions, particle numbers, however you want to word it, and full lipid panel, full liver panel.
Nice stuff. Great answer. Thank you very much. I'll give this one to Phil if that's okay. So I get organ meat off my butcher for next to nothing, probably from up north. I had to read that one a few times then. I've heard Bart Keg advise against eating liver regularly. How about other meats such as cow, heart, kidney, tongue? Cheers, guys. Phil, you're quite a connoisseur of organ meats, I think.
Well, not massively, but I love the
supplementary.
I love the drum rudiment flammadiddle name. Excellent. I know exactly what a flammadiddle is. Anyway, I get organ meat off my butcher. Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is that if you're really healthy, you've got great absorption, you will get everything off you need off muscle meat, fatty muscle meat. This is what Bart K's on about. I've heard him talking about this a few times, and he's absolutely right. And I sat next to Zofia at the PHC conference a couple of years ago talking about this when Sean Baker was talking, and I said, well, what do you reckon to, the amount of protein he eats and, no organ meats and whatever. And she said, it's absolutely fine for him. But if you're healing, it is your vitamin pill. So I think that all of these organs are useful, but bear in mind, again, something that Sean said a while ago, how big is the liver? How big is an animal? So how much would we have eaten? And often the hunters would take it out and bite loads off and then not take it back to the tribe or only take a bit back. So a lot of people lived absolutely fine without it. I think more of a concern is eating too much of it, where you can have you can have hypervitaminosis. Andrew's popped up here. Andrew Scarborough, heart is a muscle meat, quite right. So you can eat it every day, really, cheaper too, gram for gram, and very useful. There's also, it has been through history, the idea that if you have anything wrong with a particular organ, you should eat that organ, a little bit more. So if you've got a liver issue, maybe up the liver. If you've got a heart issue, up the heart, that kind of thing. And I think that's probably quite wise because nature knows what you're made of and what that organ is made of. But eat them if you like them. Don't massively overdo them and eat them exclusively in a load of liver supplements. So you'll end up like Fruit Saladino and having to take a load of fruit to counteract the effects of it. So just go with nature, really. How big's the animal? How big are these organs? If you're healing, they're more useful than if you're not healing. That's it, really.
Great stuff. Lee, what's your take on organ meats and amounts and frequency, and do you eat them at all?
I don't really ever touch liver now. I did crave it every now and again, and then I would eat some and not really fancy that much after eating a little bit. And so I thought I craved it sometimes a lot. You think, oh yeah, I'll grab all of that. And then you take it home, you're like, yeah, it's all right, but kind of done with that. So I pretty much only eat sort of meat as it comes, sirloins, ribeyes, T-bones, all that kind of stuff. But every now and again, the butcher will like, because he knows what I'm like, he'll say, like, we've got ox heart if you want a bit of ox heart. And when it's available, I'll often just buy it, and I'll cut it up and do it in a pan. And you can eat, like what Andrew's saying, you can eat heart quite regularly. You can eat tongue quite regularly. Tongue is funny. You can find it some places where it's really cheap. Other places it's like really expensive, and that's kind of around the world, But kidney you can eat a little bit more of. But I would say, yeah, heart and tongue, no problem. They've got some great nutrient profiles. CoQ10 is very high in heart. You got sort of zinc is high in tongue and stuff like that. I quite like it. It's a bit of variety as well, but I don't really touch liver. I'm not really interested. Gone off it.
Good stuff. We'll move on to the next one. So it's a super chat from Ribeye Rob. I'm not sure where it's come through. It might be mine. I'm not sure, but thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Enjoy the conference, guys. I'm going to attend one next year to meet you all, but until then, I'll just keep watching your excellent streams and all the advice you give us. Thanks for all you do. And I believe the website, for anyone wondering, saying that I didn't say what it was, it's carnivoreconference.co.uk. There's still some spaces left, I think, but you've got to get in quick. It's not something you can just give it to the last minute. They will sell out very, very, very fast. Now, the next question is not another serious one from Paul. I want to see the jam with Lee. Phil.
I want to see it too.
I tell you what, mate. I'm going to make sure that Lee comes along to our event that we had at the Rainford Junction a little while ago, because there's a load of music on there. I can't resist it. Great talks in the day. And then we play either with my band, the Daz band, or a big jam with loads of different musicians on the Sunday night. We're going to do it bigger and better with all sorts of glamping and stuff next year. So if you see the link below, my Substack, just get on that, sign up for free, and you'll get all the news of that. And I'm going to make sure I drag Lee along, because I know that there's keyboards there.
Cool. I'll bring my pedal. There's never a pedal on a keyboard.
Oh, mate, there is
stuff.
when we do it. I don't muck about. I understand all this stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the next question now. So that's from Nature Pro TV. Question: I do OMAD, eating around 500 to 600 grams daily, I'm assuming of meat, hopefully. 6 to 8 eggs, salt, and a little bit of butter. Down from 110 kilos to 83 kilos in 6 months. I feel amazing. Start to build serious muscle mass. Question: is this healthy? It's one of those, I don't know, how long's a piece of string answers. I think we're going to skip this one, guys, because we cannot answer it feasibly without any kind of real detail at all whatsoever. So apologies for that. But if you tell us about your goals, what your muscle mass level is, do you have abs? I don't know. Even that will be helpful. Right now we'll be purely speculating. It'd be absolutely useless advice, which you probably will just ignore, because it's hard to take advice when you don't have specific instructions, guidance, details, and descriptions of what is going on with the body at that point in time. So we move next to John Eubanks' question. Anyone know of a product that has active ingredient of ashwagandha without all the hard part? I know someone who benefits from it, but it gives them joint pain and so on. No, that doesn't exist. I've looked for it. I looked for it 2 weeks ago. It doesn't exist unless you buy it from like a chemical research factory that makes stuff in China that isolates stuff. Even then, it'd be a special request with minimal order quantity of probably a kilo drum, which will probably cost you several £1,000s. So it's not possible to get it. And if your friend did get it, I highly, highly doubt that, unless they bought an aqueous solution, which would be more concentrated, but that's about it. Does anyone else have any takes on ashwagandha and the medicinal compound within it?
No.
Fair. I'll move on to the next question. So this has been asked before by Andy, actually. What is the DHA content like in red meat? Is it adequate on its own, or is seafood required in general? Perhaps Lee and Phil. Lee and I can't even say your name, Phil. I just got halfway through it. Lee and Phil. One syllable too much. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So Lee and Phil, if you want to answer, perhaps what your opinion is on like seafood. Do we need it? And I'm going to challenge you, Phil. I'm going to ask you this question, but don't bring up Dr. Jack Cruz.
No,
So there's your challenge.
You've only reminded me of that, actually, because, yeah, he is.
You were going to bring it up, I promise.
No, honestly, I wasn't.
I want to see what else you know.
All I was thinking was about lamb, really. And just,
lamb is good.
If you want to up the DHA content, then maybe have lamb in preference to beef. And I think, you know, without mentioning Jack, he's got his own ideas, but I don't think seafood has enough fat in it. It's maybe good for a vegetable on the side or whatever, but yeah, eat more lamb. That's what I'd say.
Solid. Does anyone else have any takes on that one at all? It's quite a low-hanging fruit, but
more so for the States. I mean, it is happening. Unfortunately, I've noticed in some of the butchers, they're now stocking the grain finished, but it's just worth mentioning grass-fed, grass-finished is going to be higher in all of this stuff. DHA is going to be higher, but obviously we see lamb, sheep and that, they're always grazing. I think it's always grass-fed, grass-finished, the lamb. In my, you know, I can't find any kind of corn-finished lamb, but if you eat beef, then you want to have a little bit more of the organic sort of level quality of meat, and you should be fine. It should be sufficient. If you're eating a lot of grain fed, you might want to try some lamb. You might want to have a fish day. I often have a fish day, though I might give that up soon. I'm pretty keen on trying just the lion diet again, just to see how it feels. Another experiment. It's been a long time, so I'm almost there with it anyway. So
nice one. Yeah, just so everyone knows, we're going to finish answering this question now, but just for your educational purposes, Coach Stephen has kindly put up on the screen some different sources of omega-3, namely the DHA content. Now, obviously, DHA is one component of omega-3. There's also EPA. They have unique individual benefits, and they're both very useful and very essential to the human body. But these are the amounts that are in it, so you don't need a lot, guys. The recommendation is something like, I personally recommend at least 2 grams per day, but I'm on the high end. I've got a bias myself. I get in about 10 to 15 grams per day through diet alone. I eat a lot of fish, guys. I eat a lot of fish. But yeah, these are useful sources: mackerel, salmon, sardines, all the usual stuff. Obviously, don't buy canned oil, but he just put it in there for completeness. But, you know, get it from the best source you can. That's all I'd say. We'll move on to the next question. So this is where, well, it's not even a question, but it's just about the debate I did with Vegan Gains. It went exactly how I thought it would go. I basically just poked holes in the ship over and over and over and over again, but the unknowing viewer probably thought that I was defeated. The reality is you cannot argue with someone that has ideological beliefs. That is what happened. But if anyone actually watches the video in whole, in full, they'll see me sitting there calmly, relaxed, answering every single question. The only instances where I was unable to provide a response or a rebuttal feedback was when he asked me 3 or 4 questions at once, and I had to pick apart what part to answer, because he does this tactic in debates called bombardment, where they send you, oh, look at this study, look at this study, look at this study, look at this mechanism, this Marpic thing, here's the shiny object, but it doesn't allow you to focus on the individual argument at hand, which made my life absolutely impossible when previously, about 4 hours prior to that, I fell down the stairs, and I was a lot of medication, I was a lot of pain, I nearly called the hospital, and I was feeling absolutely sick, and that was around the time that I contracted, not contracted, but my EBV flared up, which is very, very frustrating, and it is debilitating as hell. It's probably the worst disease in the world apart from cancer. So yeah, it's not an excuse to say, oh, no, it's just a case that was extremely difficult for me to sit there for an hour and a half and suffer in pain, and still provide a decent rebuttal. But I think I absolutely smashed it, in my opinion. Anyone that listened to the argument and understood the points that I did make were absolutely concrete, solid, and I did ask all the right questions that I was supposed to. The only thing is, I'm not rude to people. I don't pinpoint say, no, you're an idiot, you're wrong, interrupting, because I've seen that happen so many times. I don't like that happening. I hate when people interrupt me, so I didn't do it to him. But had I done that, it would have been a very different debate. I tell you, a very, 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 very different debate. We're going to move to the next question now.
So polite, mate. You were so polite. I don't know how you hung on to it.
I was completely dazed out as well. I was on a maximum medicinal dose of my medication, and I still did all right. So I think, people think that I lost that debate. I wouldn't say it was a debate, if I'm honest. I just poked holes in his ship, and he kept flipping the subject. That was basically it. So it wasn't even a debate. But I'll label it that if it keeps a few pesky vegans off my case. So we're nearly down to the end of the questions now, guys. Brilliant. So Isla has asked, "Hi, your thoughts about fasting, please. How long? What kind?" This is not a Stephen or me question. This is not a Stephen or me question. I'm gonna leave this with Lee and Phil to hear their takes. Either of you, feel free to answer.
I mean, I don't think it's ever necessary unless you're really sick. And if you do want to play around with it, I think it's a great tool in terms of intervening on healing, or, you know, you could do like a convenient 1 day dry fast, 2 or 3 day water fast. I would never recommend going more than 5 days with water and electrolytes, or 3 day dry fast. I can't personally advocate for any more than that. I think otherwise it's extreme and maybe contraindicated. Unless you have cancer or you want to seal your gut because you're in serious trouble, PKD style and fast like there's no tomorrow, but you want to build up to it. I just think it's unnecessary. If you're hungry, you should eat. And, you know, at the moment, I've actually managed to gain a little bit of weight. I've noticed it's quite interesting. And I'm eating less now because I'm still eating every day. But I could fast very easily for a couple of days and not really even think about food that much. And so I just listen to my body. And I've only done a 5 day fast once because I wanted to heal up a skin condition, and it worked quite well for me. But I would never recommend, unless you're very, very sick, fasting for more than 5 days. And I would say do a 1 day dry fast, 3 day water fast is great. You know, use it as a tool when needed.
Yeah, I'd agree. I did a whole load of fasting back in the day when I didn't know how to eat because I was so frightened of the inflammation any food caused. And I lost all my muscle and I ended up emaciated and all sorts. But yeah, Andrew says fasting is good if you're fat or inflamed. I think one thing to stress here, because I've done really long fasts, like 11 days and stuff like that, and it was great. It got rid of the issue because the crap food was causing me inflammation. But bear in mind that if you're fasting, you're not putting in the building blocks to repair the damage. So you might stop the symptoms, and that's very good. And I think really long dry fasts, if your life's in danger, if somebody said, right, pancreatic cancer, you got 3 months, nothing wrong with trying an 11-day dry fast if you can get there. Absolutely, to let the body mop up stuff, but you're not going to be rebuilding during that time. So I think it's a waste of time most of the time. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. That's it.
Solid answer. Love that. I always love Phil and Lee's approach to things. It's so simple, but when you such talk through it, it actually makes so much sense. You know, love that. Anyway, get to the next question. We're nearly at the bottom now, guys. Nearly. I'm using red light in the evening. Doesn't matter what kind of bulb it comes from. It's helpful if it comes from a bulb which turns on that has an electrical circuit going through it. Now, there's going to be people out there which will say, yeah, the best way to do it is this LED thing with this, and you have to use this at this nanometer. I found it largely to be no different at all. I think the definitive clinical data does suggest that certain nanometer wavelengths with certain bulbs is the most effective because there's less flicker. The reality is, guys, if you put a red light in front of your body, your face, your brain will realize it's a red light and it will react accordingly. So don't over concern yourself with it. If it's labeled and sold as a product which is a red light lamp, they go from as little as about £30-40, guys. You do not need to spend £400 on these things. They say you do, but they don't. It's the same thing comes out of factory in China. I know, because I looked at the LEDs, I looked at the batch numbers, and most of them are near enough parallel. Sorry, guys, if you've wasted your money. But you can get these things much cheaper than what you see online. But I know the guys do have, I believe, affiliate codes to different blue locking glasses, perhaps the red light bulbs. Maybe one of you guys do. I'm not sure. Is that right?
I do. I have a link with 10% off if you want it.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, because there's two ranges. You want the visible red light and you want the near infrared light. And I will put a link in the chat for you. I'll do that now.
Nice one. What I'll also do, guys, is I'll share that on the screen so you guys can see it. I'm all about saving money. I don't like spending money meaninglessly. Yeah, the other thing is obviously you can use the blue light blocking glasses. I know me and Phil are big on those. It's nearly coming to that time of year where we'll start probably chucking them on at some point because it's starting to get a little bit dark in the UK. We're nearly there. I'd say probably about another month or two.
Can I just do a really quick one here because it hasn't come up in the starred ones. Just take me a sec. Andrew said, different question. What's the best way to look after a Venus flytrap? I just got one. So, Andrew, what you do is you give it to a vegan to look after, to show them even plants think they're wrong.
Yeah.
Very good. Anyway, this is the link that you mentioned. So basically it's blockbluelight.co.uk. UK Carnivore is the code. I imagine you could probably find it on his website as well if you look for, I think, type in UK Carnivore affiliate links, products, discounts, something.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
You got it.
Yeah, you'll find it there. So easy peasy. Very, very good. And now we get to the next question. It's from Cherie. Apology for the no context. I have a bone marrow problem that is causing my body to destroy bone at rapid speed. Basically, she's adamant that she needs to do medical ketosis because she heard someone online on the internet say that it's great. The reality is, bone is made of mostly protein, and it's one of the biggest, hardest tissues in your body. Now, in terms of the actual weight of your skeleton, obviously you can get bone mineral density scans, things like that. The average skeleton, guys, only weighs about 5 to 10 pounds, so it's not a lot of weight. But it's very hard to actually build onto that if you don't give it the right nutrients. As far as I'm concerned, there's very little fat that's actually in bone tissue. There might be some in maybe the marrow. There will be some in the marrow, but largely speaking, the actual weight of it, the bare bones of it is going to be mostly calcium and protein and things like that. So by deliberately make yourself deficient in protein, which people do tend to do, they do chase down the protein amount as low as possible. So it's just so they can fit more fat in, basically, and butter. But that's not an angle I would take at all. It's completely contraindicated. You might find some benefit just by switching from a Western diet to a carnivorous, very high fat diet, but you'll get a better benefit in terms of bone density from more protein, in my opinion. Does anyone have any contrasting thoughts to that, or differentiation? Because I don't want to say that and it be representative of everyone else if it's not what you guys think.
Well, no, I agree with what you're saying. What's the problem? Is it osteomyelitis? Because that's actually a bacterial disease of the bone marrow. Normally, if someone has that, they would type that in rather than bone marrow problem. So if it's that's a different kettle of fish completely. So I would actually question the parathyroid here. I would get a blood test on that, just see if that's functioning okay. There's a huge correlation between what happens at the parathyroid and your bone health, because the modulation of calcium and phosphate is really essential for bone development. And you also get into things like K2. I don't want to get into all of that. Let's keep it really basic. If you want to know what's going on, firstly, get a proper diagnosis for the bone marrow problem, and second, and then maybe come back next week with what the actual diagnosis you've been given is. And secondly, if you get a blood test for your parathyroid function, that might nail it as well. I mean, it's very, very telling. Today, for instance, I actually had a client. Now, this is a completely different thing, where she had 3% function of her kidney and was given a transplant, and they were going to operate surgically on her parathyroid, because there's a lot of calcium and phosphate in the kidney, parathyroid and the bone all sort of work together. Anyway, she's only been with me 4 weeks, and the parathyroid hormone has dropped to such a level where the doctor doesn't actually understand what's going on, and said, I can't believe it. So I've got the figure here, actually, just how much it's gone down. It's gone down 12.5. It was 24.7 in the reading, and previously it was quite high at 36. And then her EGFR from a transplanted kidney, by the way, which when it was transplanted, it was about 60, the filtration rate. Then went down to 33. Just eating this way has got it back up to 53. So we're controlling phosphate and we're controlling calcium. That's two of the main tenets of making the kidney work better. And we've got the actual figures here, but also your bone density goes up. That's the other thing I was going to say. And that's because we're looking at the parathyroid and managing that as well. So, come back with a proper diagnosis for the bone problem. But absolutely what you just said, Jonathan, it's incredibly strong and incredibly light. That's the whole point of bone. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing, but you need protein. People think it's a dead sort of stick of chalk or something. It's constantly in flux, and it's flexible. It's living. It's actually an endocrine organ. It sends out signals. Things go into it and come out of it different. And we've got to stop looking at bone like, oh, we just need to drink a lot of milk. It's completely not that. It's so important to look at the protein and fats. You need essential fatty acids as well. And you also need things like K2. You need that. And you would not believe what happens. You know, we could get into the weeds. I don't really want to do a Richard on you, but the bone will take in a thing called osteocalcin, which is the thing that promotes its growth. But to activate that, you need K2. And there's also a thing called matrix GLA protein as well. And that needs K2 to activate it. Basically, the MGP, that stops calcium getting into the tissue. And the osteocalcin takes it into the bone, right? So that's what happens. Well, it doesn't just do that. Then what happens once it's in there, you get calcium and phosphate going off to the parathyroid to give it a little bit of feedback, because they are quite symbiotic in the bone. But it also sends out what's called undercarboxylated osteocalcin, which goes to the liver, which goes to the pancreas to produce insulin. It goes to the muscle tissue, and believe it or not, it loops back into the bone to make it all more insulin sensitive. So you get this fantastic thing going on. So if you have a bone marrow problem, you need to get it diagnosed properly, what's going on, and you need to look at it as a holistic thing, because it's really essential. But it is one of the strongest, most flexible structures you'll know.
I think it's a really good point about the parathyroid, and to look into it, because there can be some instance where you can have a little kind of benign tumor on one of the parathyroids, and we got like 4 of them, right? And it's a bit of a job, because they're in a different place in different people, and they tend to dig around in the neck a bit to try and sort it out. But at least rule it out, and then the diet's going to sort it out. If there's a little tumor there or something, maybe it won't, so maybe I have to go further. But like Stephen says, get a diagnosis on that. Definitely go get the parathyroid sorted out.
Great stuff. On that note, we're going to wrap up here, guys. We've run out of time for tonight. No more questions tonight. Thank you very much to everyone that has joined tonight to listen in. Answer some great questions. Apologies if I'm a bit moody, but I'm extremely ill, and this is the worst I've felt in 29 years of my life. No exaggeration. I feel worse than when I felt when I left surgery. Me. Well, I made it. I provided a service for free and answered your questions, and these guys did as well, and these guys did an absolutely tremendous job, as per usual. And like I mentioned at the very start about the Carnivore Conference, if you want to meet us in person, I'll try and be a bit more lively, and the other guys will be great, absolutely great. And they've got some very interesting talks coming up, so they'll actually provide you with new information which perhaps you haven't heard before, and perhaps new things which are more useful to you than what we can sort of say on these sort of platforms. And as Coach Stephen would say, it's a bit of a apple crumble situation, really. But if you got to be here to get your answers, guys. If you got something peculiar where you're like, I kind of want to talk about this, I can't really ask here because we can't provide an answer because of the platform that we're on, that's going to be the place to go. I know for myself, Carnivore Muscle Jonathan, Lee, Kent Carnivore, Phil Escott at philescott.substack.com, and Stephen at theukcarnivore.com. If anyone has any last final words before I press a button to end the stream, now is the chance. We're all defeated. We're all heading off. All right, thanks very much for joining, guys, and take care. I'm going to press my button now. I love this button.
Introducing Beef Up Carnivore Bodybuilding Bible. The ultimate guide for men and women to lose fat and build muscle. And the best part, it's only $12. Don't miss out on the most detailed resource available. Get a copy now at